Look, nobody has a more heartbreaking reason to be on this list than Lynyrd Skynyrd. The original band was already half destroyed by the 1977 plane crash that killed Ronnie Van Zant, Steve Gaines, and 3 others, and the survivors spent years trying to put the pieces back together. Gary Rossington, the last founding member standing, kept the flame alive through decades of reunions and revivals. Then in March 2023, Rossington passed away.
Sweet home Alabama, where the sky looks blue.
And just like that, 0 originals left. Not one single one. The band Johnny Van Zant leads today is full of competent players who clearly love the music. But when you're playing Simple Man and Freebird and not one single person on that stage was there when those songs were actually written and recorded, that's not a band anymore. That's a museum with a tour bus. Ronnie Van Zant deserves better than his legacy being used as a brand name for shows he'll never see.
Gotta take a little time, think things over.
Here's a band that somehow keeps finding new ways to lose more of itself. In 2024, founding guitarist and creative mastermind Mick Jones announced he was stepping away from touring after being diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Genuinely tragic, and nobody's making light of it. But it does mean Foreigner is now out on the road without the actual man who invented Foreigner. And if that wasn't enough, frontman Kelly Hansen, the guy fans had at least gotten used to, also departed in 2025. So what's left? A touring company with a recognizable logo and a set list. A licensed product performing songs Mick Jones wrote for stages Mick Jones can no longer stand on. The band that gave you Cold as Ice and Jukebox Hero is now essentially a cover act of itself, with no original member in sight. When the founder can't tour his own band due to illness, the move is to stop, not rebrand. Stop.
Nowhere left to hide. Looks like love has finally found me.
Yes, might be the most philosophically complicated band on this entire list, because at what point does a group stop being a band and start being just a concept? The founding lineup from 1968 featured John Anderson, Chris Squire, Peter Banks, Tony Kaye, and Bill Bruford. Chris Squire died in 2015. Peter Banks died in 2013. John Anderson has been absent from the touring band since 2008. And Tony Kaye and Bill Bruford both left many decades ago. What's currently touring under the Yes name has absolutely no connection to the people who wrote Roundabout, Owner of a Lonely Heart, or Close to the Edge. None. 0. The musicianship is technically impressive, but that's simply not Yes. That's a prog rock cover act with better lawyers. Fans have been joking for years they need a full flowchart just to track which version of Yes is currently out on tour. That's not a legacy, that's a franchise dispute in a cape.
Just a small town girl, living in a lonely world.
Journey is a near miss, but it's a near miss worth talking about because the drama here is absolutely magnificent. Neil Schon is technically still in the band, making him the one thread of continuity holding the whole thing together. The problem is that Schon has been locked in spectacular legal warfare over the band's name, finances, and creative direction for years now. It's less a rock band at this point and more a very expensive lawsuit with guitar solos attached.
In a smoking room, smell of wine and cheap perfume.
The original 1973 lineup, Schon, Greg Rowley, Ross Valerie, and the others, is entirely gone from the active group. If Schon ever steps back, Journey hits 0 originals overnight. The frontman situation? Arnel Pineda is a talented singer, no question. But the We Found Him on YouTube story is wearing noticeably thin after 18 years on the road. Journey stopped being a real band a while ago. Now it's just Neil Sean and a very busy Here's one that doesn't get talked about enough. Quiet Riot, the band that actually put heavy metal on the American pop charts with Come On Feel the Noise back in 1983. The original lineup had vocalist Kevin Dubrow, guitarist Randy Rhoads, bassist Kelly Garney, and drummer Drew Forsyth. Randy Rhoads died in a plane accident in 1982, before the band had even hit it big. Dubrow died in 2007. The current lineup features bassist Rudy Sarzo, who first joined way back in 1978 alongside guitarist Alex Grossi, vocalist Jizzy Pearl, and drummer Johnny Kelly. None of them are founding members. Not one. So what we have is a band playing songs written by two people who are both dead, fronted by a guy named Jizzy Pearl, selling tickets on the strength of a name that barely even applied to most of the people who actually made it famous in the very first place. Metal up, I guess. Ratt is a special kind of disaster because they didn't just quietly lose their original members. They spectacularly imploded into competing factions and lawsuits before fading into a ghost of whatever they used to be. The classic lineup was Stephen Pearcy, guitarist Robin Crosby and Warren DeMartini, bassist Juan Crucier, and drummer Bobby Blotzer. Robin Crosby died in 2002 after years of serious health struggles. The remaining members then spent most of the 2010s fighting each other in court over who owned the Ratt name, resulting in multiple simultaneous Ratt touring acts playing different venues on the same weekend, which is either glorious rock and roll chaos or straightforward consumer fraud, depending entirely on your perspective. DeMartini still plays, Pearcy still tours, but a unified Ratt with original members? That ship hasn't just sailed, it sank, got salvaged, sank again, and is now being actively fought over by lawyers in 3 different states. Round and round.
Empty pockets don't ever make the grade.
Blood, Sweat, and Tears might be the earliest example in rock history of a band treating membership as genuinely optional. Al Kooper, the guy who actually founded the band and gave it its entire artistic identity, left after just one album. Just one. David Clayton Thomas came in. The band hit massive commercial success and then spent the next 5 decades through members at a rate that would exhaust an entire HR department. The original lineup from 1967 is entirely gone. The current touring version has no founding members, no real continuity of personnel, and very little connection to what made the band interesting in the first place. And what they do have is the name, the horn section template, and a set list built on songs written by people who moved on long ago. At this point, Blood, Sweat, and Tears is less a band and more an abstract concept with a brass section, and a very persistent booking agent. Foghat are a band that genuinely had something. Slow Ride is one of the great driving songs in rock history. Full stop, no argument accepted. The British blues rock outfit formed in 1971 with Dave Peverett, Rod Price, Tony Stevens and Roger Earl, and built a solid career on sweaty, boogie-heavy hard rock that deserved more credit than it got.
Get up from Main Street, step into the crowd.
Then Peverett died of cancer in 2000. Rod Price died in 2005. Of the founding four, only drummer Roger Earl has remained, and even his involvement has been complicated by health issues and lineup shuffles in recent years. What's currently called Foghat is essentially Earl and a rotating cast of hired players keeping the brand alive on the nostalgia circuit. They sound fine, they play the songs, but there's a real difference between a band and a brand. And Foghat crossed that particular line somewhere around the time they simply ran out of original members to put on stage.
With a cigar got no bottom, say it, take you down that hill. Oh, yeah, my pushes out all to the right.
Warrant had a rough time even when all their original members were still alive. The classic lineup, vocalist Janny Lane, guitarist Eric Turner and Joey Allen, bassist Jerry Dixon, and drummer Steven Sweet, was a genuine glam metal force in the late 80s. But the 90s were not kind to them, and internal tensions made everything worse. Then Janny Lane died in 2011, which removed the last real anchor connecting the touring band to the songs people actually came to hear. The band carried on with Robert Mason on lead vocals, who, to be fair, is a solid singer, and gradually shed the remaining original members until no founding member was left. They still play Cherry Pie. Of course they do. It's the song that pays the bills, and also, apparently the song Janny Lane resented having to sing every single night. Now someone else is singing it, which probably says everything you need to know.
Like no one singing down in Uncle Tom's cabin, oh yeah. She made me think of things I never thought of. Well, she's gone and I'm on my own.
And finally, a band that might be the most extreme case on this entire list, Little River Band, celebrating 50 years in 2025 without a single original member anywhere near the stage, not one. The Australian soft rock group had a legitimate run of adult contemporary hits in the late 70s and early 80s. Help is on its way, Reminiscing, Lonesome Loser, songs that still turn up on classic hits radio stations all over the world. But the band has been through so many lineup changes across 5 full decades that it now exists purely as a name, a set list, and a booking fee. There's been ongoing legal conflict over who even has the right to use the Little River Band name at all. The answer in practice has been whoever showed up last and hired the better lawyer. At this point, the band is literally a tribute act to itself, a persistent, legally tenacious, 50-year-old tribute act.
I wanna make you understand, I'm talking about a lifetime plan.
So there you have it. 10 bands, 0 original members. Some lost them to death, some to lawsuits, some to plain old attrition. But when the people are gone, is keeping the name alive a tribute or just a business decision? Drop your answer in the comments. Hit subscribe.